we really designed Pok Pok from the ground up to feel like a physical playroom of toys. And there's no gamification at all. So we've taken out all of the hits of dopamine, all of that extrinsic motivation that gets kids addicted to devices and video games in the first place.
From scrappy founders to 8-figure success stories, we're busting startup myths, getting raw insights from market-tested entrepreneurs, and revealing the proven playbook for bootstrapping your B2B startup to 5 million. This is the Startup Different podcast.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Startup Different. I am David Sinkinson. This is Christopher Sinkinson, and with us is the fabulous Melissa Cash. Melissa, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Super good. First off, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not fat, everyone. No. I'm pregnant.
It's a bun in the oven, right?
Yeah, bun in the oven.
That's pretty exciting. How far along are you?
7 months.
Oh, it's exciting. Wow, I'm super. And this is your second kid?
My second.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Are you pumped?
I'm pumped.
Oh yeah, two's next level. I have 2 kids now, right? So it's like,
yeah,
it's like exponentially more work. You know, I thought it would
just
be like,
lie to me, please.
No,
just
yeah, oh no, everything scales. It's actually easier. It's the best time ever.
Good.
So
you guys are a bunch of whiners.
Yeah.
I have no kids.
So you're volunteering for babysitting.
I can just act like it's no big deal and come over and do the glory babysitting once in a while.
Chris uses like the Center app, which is like a workout app, and he'll like send me like a Center thing at like 11:30 in the morning and be like, "Oh, I just did my workout. I got up like an hour ago," and I'm just like, "You man, I will fight you right now."
That is my brother has the same practice, actually. Yeah, it's very annoying.
Yeah, right?
I'm like, by 11 o'clock, it's like my 5 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm really tired by 11 o'clock, right? On an average day. On a weekend, for sure. But anyway. Okay, obviously, very interesting entrepreneur. Pok Pok. Kind of a fun name, too. Fun for kids.
Fun for kids.
Fun for kids. Super excited to hear your story. Want to hear all about you. Take us away. How did you get to Pok Pok? What's your company? What's your history?
My history. Yeah. It's honestly so random. But like, I started my career in marketing and PR. I moved to Germany from Toronto right after university for love, of course.
Oh, that's nice.
It worked out. He's my husband now.
Oh, good, cool.
Shout out to my husband.
So it's partially German child in there.
This is a half German baby.
Wow,
Yeah.
Cool, exciting.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, yeah, I was in Germany and I started my career there. And then honestly had a bunch of different types of jobs at startups, at bigger companies. I also worked for Disney for about 5 years designing physical products for young children.
Cool.
Mostly babies and toddlers, like strollers, bottles, all the stuff you use every day.
Disney has strollers they sell?
Yeah.
What do you mean for as toys for kids?
No,
Not
like if you want to buy a stroller for $2,000, it can have like a Mickey on it. Or
really?
Yeah.
I know that. I mean, I have the, they didn't sponsor this episode, but I had the Up a Baby. Like everybody else, I think a lot of people have that up. It's,
Nice.
it's a legit stroller. Did I just leave you hanging by accident?
No, I was
Okay,
like,
okay. I didn't
doing
know
like
if you wanted like the high five. Okay.
I don't think I could reach you.
Yeah, we can. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
If you get an Up a Baby, you can get a.
Yeah. You can just buy a stroller. You don't even have a kid. You can push around your laptop.
Sounds kind of pricey for a stroller, but whatever.
No, but they're incredibly necessary. But anyway, we digress. So what is I've never seen a Disney stroller. Like I can't think of it. Like what is it like? Or is it an Up a Baby with literally like Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, it would be like a collab, like Up a Baby X Disney, and it would be like
cool.
Yeah, so I worked on a lot of like co-branded products between baby and toddler companies, and then Disney itself.
You were designing these products, or you were like working on the sponsorship, like to get the connections to the other companies?
I was working on the like Disney-fying of the product. So I would work with like, let's say it's a stroller company or a baby bottle company, and they were like, we were really interested in, these 10 IP. We want like Winnie the Pooh. We want this. Or I would pitch them and say like, this is the next hot property for next year. Like there's a new Moana movie or whatever's going on. And then
I like Moana.
I like her too.
It's one of my faves, but anyway, keep going.
And then we would work together to design and make sure that like the integrity of the Disney brand was brought through the product, that it was implemented in like a really meaningful way. And so that was my job for almost 5 years.
How did you find this job? Like, did you just walk into the castle one day and say, grab some of the magic dust and like blew it onto an Up a Baby and it's changed? You like, look at me go. Like, how did this happen?
How did you know?
I know. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, did you fun fact that the like classic Cinderella castle is based on this German castle, which was about like an hour and a half from where I was living.
Oh.
It's called Neuschwanstein.
I've heard of it. I
Very
can't
cool.
pronounce it. I was like, is it the? And I was like, I can't say this
No,
word.
I can barely say it, and I'm fluent in German. But
Cool.
what I was going to say is, no, I was actually working for a fashion startup in Munich, and I had been tasked with going to a trade show, like a big conference, basically. Yep. And at the time, it was just like a tiny startup, like a husband and wife and me, literally. And they were going to be somewhere else, so I was going alone. And this is like many years ago, so they just literally gave me cash for the whole conference.
Sick.
Whoa.
And I was
like 10 grand or like 10,000 euros, and you're
it wasn't that much, but
5,000 euros.
It was like we had like prepaid the hotel and like the big things, but it was just like kind of my per diem. It was like maybe $500 to $1,000. I can't remember.
Okay, cool.
And so yeah, my boss like gave me this envelope of cash. I go home. On the way home, I stop at the grocery store, and then I'm shopping. It's kind of the middle of the day because I left early because I'm heading on this business trip, and it was like very quiet in the store, and I'm kind of, slowly shopping, puttering. There's like a couple of old ladies doing their shopping. Like it was very quiet.
Okay.
And so I left my cart for like a split second and walked maybe 3 meters away to grab something. And when I came back, I continued shopping. And I was like, great, I'm almost done. And then I get to the cash and I realize that like all my stuff is gone in my bag of any value, including all the money.
Hey, we're taking a short break to tell you some exciting news. Chris and I wrote a book. Surprise! It's called Startup Different, the myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business, and it's available now. Like our show, we're trying to pay it forward to our fellow entrepreneurs. The book busts 33 business myths, tells some of our most hilarious stories, and gives you many of our best tools to build, scale, and exit your business. You'll find the book on all major online retailers, including Amazon. Check it out. We think it's pretty great. And now, back to the show.
I'm like, I just got mugged. Like I wasn't like attacked, but like someone
You were
just
robbed.
I was robbed, I guess.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I guess I do always mix those things.
It's kind of a big difference, but that's okay.
You're
That's
right.
fine.
You're right. This story is maybe less interesting if you realize I was only robbed. But
We can make up stuff. I mean, it's still pretty interesting.
I was actually held at gunpoint.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was robbed in the store. I spoke no German at this point. Also, I had just moved to Germany. Long story short, like they didn't know who it was. I left. I was like, shit, how am I going to pay for this trip? I have no money. I'm like a poor recent university graduate. And then, flash. So I end up, I call my boss. I'm like, I'm really sorry.
What did you do?
I was just like, I can't believe I have to say this, but I just got robbed and I don't have any of the money and my wallet's gone. And I didn't need my passport to fly because we were staying within the country, but I was like, I don't have anything for this trip. And because I was a foreign immigrant, I didn't have that many cards that would like work. I only had like my one German credit card and stuff. So I was like, is there any way, like I'll cover the cost, but can you help me get through this business trip first?
Yeah.
And luckily, like they were wonderful.
Right.
Her children even like collected coins and put them in an envelope and gave them to me because they felt bad. It was so
super
sweet.
wholesome.
Yeah, they were lovely. They were like the best.
Is that a
people.
Disney movie? Like this sounds kind of like a Disney movie. But keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
The movie's coming 2028. So anyways, they were so lovely. They just covered it. They were like, don't worry about it. Anyway, long story short, so whatever, I get to my trip, I do my thing, whatever. And as I'm leaving, I'm like very on edge because I was recently
You were robbed, yeah.
So I'm kind of like on guard and I'm standing at a bus stop waiting for the bus. And I'm heading back to the airport and I'm in Berlin. And this woman starts kind of walking toward me and I'm like, oh no. Like, I don't know. She was like unassuming, but I was like, so were all the old ladies in the grocery store. So like, who stole my shit? Anyway, so yeah, she comes up to me and I'm like, first I'm like, oh, she's going to rob me. And and then my second thought was, she's going to speak German to me. And I don't speak
Also
any German.
terrifying.
Also terrifying. And then she was American and she was like, hey, do you know what time the bus is coming? And it turns out she was American from New York City, worked at Disney in Germany though. And we spent the entire flight back, bus ride back, chit-chatting, stayed in touch. 3 months later, she was like, do you want a job at Disney?
What?
And that was it.
Hang on. What was her role at Disney?
She was doing exactly what I ended up doing. So she was a product designer.
Okay.
And but she was mostly focused on fashion, and that's why I met her at this fashion event. And then when I joined the company, I did my first 6 months in more like the fashion side, and then I moved to baby and toddler after.
Wow,
so
interesting.
It was very serendipitous, but she's still a friend.
That's
I'm
amazing.
still friends with her now.
That's a pretty cool story. You went
yeah.
from being robbed to getting a dope job.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes to show like you really just can't judge any situation, anyone, and it kind of set the tone for my whole career, where I'm now so open to meeting people and talking to people, because you never know who is going to either connect you to or be your next big opportunity.
Right.
So, yeah, you can't judge anyone. And it was a really cool experience. So I love her. Yeah.
That's that it also does, like, just being like straight up, that actually does sound like a Disney movie, though, because you went from like this terrible outcome to this like great end game thing.
Has the happy ending.
Yes,
You
has
know,
the
I
happy
love
ending.
it.
Well, actually, I guess then you leave Disney, though, presumably.
I did, yeah.
You don't
Well,
still
I
work at
moved-
Disney, as far as I understand.
Not as a side hustle, no. I don't have time.
Side hustle at Disney. Yeah, we're cool with that. Keep going.
No, I moved. My husband and I decided to move back to Canada, so I left Disney.
Okay.
And
now you have Pok Pok.
Now I have Pok Pok. Yeah, so that's another weird story, but the short version, honestly, is that I moved back to Toronto, didn't know what I wanted to do. I have an older brother who works.
That's a terrible thing. That's
I know, they're the
unfortunate.
worst.
Yeah,
Those older brothers are awful.
Especially the ones that don't have kids. Like, what?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can't stand them. Yeah,
Just can't relate.
I can't relate at all. Full of working out in the middle of the day. Anyway,
Totally.
yeah.
Anyways, and he has a video game studio here in Toronto called Snowman. And when I first got back to Toronto, he asked if I could help with some.
I've heard of them. They do they have a game that's like it's like very artistically like pleasing kind of. Well, I can't
Is
remember.
it Alto's Adventure?
Yeah, that is the game I'm thinking of. That's wild.
You're one in 100 million people probably who've played it.
Oh, what an elite group. Hey, I was just happy I was able to snipe that out of nowhere. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, okay.
Yeah, that's cool. So so my brother Ryan started that company with his childhood best friend, Jordan.
Oh, so cool.
And when I moved back to Toronto, they were launching the sequel to that game, which is Alto's Odyssey. And they were like, do you want to help us with a bit of PR while you like settle back in just for 3 months? And I did PR before, so I was like, great. Yeah, this is the perfect little thing to do. And while I was there, I happened to meet two of his employees who are husband and wife from Belgium, of all places.
Oh.
And the husband, Matthias, was in Toronto on business for work, and we met. And he told me that him and his wife were starting to think about how to introduce technology to their 2-year-old.
Oh, man.
And they had a newborn also.
Okay.
So like very close
Oh,
together.
wow. Okay. This is like right in my ballpark right now. So this is very interesting. Okay.
And they were really, to be frank, disgusted by all of the options out there on the market at the time. It was a lot of like very overstimulating, addictive video games that were not very appropriate for young kids, or left them so overstimulated that they would have like a 20-minute meltdown. It was time to take the device away.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of pedagogy. So like these kind of academic workbooks we all did on paper that are now being done on iPads, which are pretty boring and really not the best way for children to learn, because it's really just memorize this, regurgitate that,
Sure.
and you kind of walk away without much to show for it. And they were like, what about the living room of toys that we're constantly stepping on?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why has no one brought that like open-ended, evergreen, beautiful play that happens literally everywhere into a digital space for those moments when you can't schlep your Lego set, or you're not out in the woods picking up bugs? And like, how do we bridge that gap and find a healthy way to bring it to children? And so they mentioned it to my brother and were like, do you mind if we work on this as a side project? And he was like, I do not, but I think this might be something my sister could be helpful with. And so that kind of started the conversation. And then about a year later, I quit my job. I had already gone to another startup, and we got to work.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have like many thoughts, many questions. Chris, you can dive into the tech, but I want to stay with the parenting piece here for a second. So, as a parent, and I know I am currently holding an iPad, but I remain terrified of iPads. And we've gone way out of our way to not give our children any device at all, because I'm worried about a few things. One is when you give them the iPad, you can never ungive them the iPad. They know it exists, right? And if they don't know it exists, it's not going to hurt them. But speaking of hurt them, is I worry about the effect it has on like their brain, like their actual mental development. And I from what I've read, a lot of that overstimulation and some of that stuff can be super detrimental. So like, I'm sure you hear this pretty quickly with almost everyone you talk to.
Yeah.
So what's your take? How is it that Pok Pok doesn't hurt my kids?
Yeah, these are all really good questions. And as a mother, like, of course, I have them too, or I have these concerns. We all just want the best for our kids.
Yeah.
Parenting is also super hard, and you kind of feel like you're failing all the time. So I think, this is just probably one of the most urgent problems of our generation of millennial parents, I think, is like, how do you navigate technology and screens? And the short answer is it's early. Like, our parents went through this with the television. Like, we grew up with it. They're like, oh, shoot, it's going to rot their brains. Should they be watching this? What content's good?
Look what happened to Chris.
I was raised on Star Wars.
Chris, you look like 25. So I think
Paul Rudd over here. Anyway,
And so I think every generation has this fear when there's a new technology. Honestly, it happened with books. People don't often know that, but
novels.
Yeah,
right?
many people were like terrified of
Yeah.
their children reading novels because of what it would do to their thoughts. It would poison them and give them big grand ideas about the world. And then came radio, then came TV. Now mobile devices, AI. So there's always a new technology that's terrifying. I'll say that, but there's a lot of like reality behind that too, I think. Especially when children are under the age of 5, their brains are undergoing so much quick development that they're sponges, and everything that we do does really matter. But there are ways to make it safer and healthier. And I think as a parent, but also as the founder and CEO of Pok Pok, I think about this all the time, about like, how do you strike that balance? So the device itself has certain qualities that are really compelling. Even if you put a tablet in front of like your 2-month-old son, he'll like be drawn to the light.
Yeah.
Just like they're drawn to a bulb if you switch on the light in your hallway at home or something.
Right.
It's like the same reaction. And then when they realize that it moves and that if they touch it, something happens, that's when it becomes even more interesting, right? And it's a similar idea where like, you don't want your kids to be under a bright light all day long. So why would you put them in front of a bright device all day long? But there are moments where you need to turn the lights on, where you need to, expose them to different things. And I think for us, we've always taken the approach of trying to design Pok Pok to be as quiet and visually understimulating as possible. Because here's the thing, like, the technology is not going anywhere. Our kids are going to be introduced to it no matter what. So the very strict point of view of like no screens at all until my kid's like 10, or everyone should do whatever they feel comfortable
It'll be
with.
very challenging.
But it's kind of like alcohol. If you're like, you can't have a sip until you're 19, what do you think your kids are going to do when they're at their first party?
Yeah, seriously, they're gonna have problems.
So like,
sure.
it's about like managing the binge, and I think and so we really approach it as trying to develop a healthy relationship from a very
Makes sense.
Early age, but in a really mindful way. So we definitely don't recommend that any screens be used for children under the age of 2. This is also what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. It's also what most people believe, frankly, is that under the age of 2 specifically is very tough.
That would
However,
be crazy. Yeah.
It happens.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you've ever been on an 8-hour transatlantic flight with an 18-month-old, you'll see.
Oh, for sure.
It happens, right?
Sure.
So, but after that, I think in moderation and with the right content, it can be a really wonderful tool, just like any other parenting tool, just like the pack of crayons that you keep in your back pocket when you go to a restaurant in case they don't have anything to do for your kid. Like there's always an option. And so we really designed Pok Pok from the ground up to feel like a physical playroom of toys. And there's no gamification at all. So we've taken out all of the hits of dopamine, all of that extrinsic motivation that gets kids addicted to devices and video games in the first place. So it's just as honestly like boring, let's say, as playing with wooden blocks or art supplies.
Or it's aiming to be as stimulating as that.
Exactly. So it doesn't make a sound unless you make it make a sound. You actually can play it with no sound just fine. We only use about 16 colors in the app. All of our animations are about half as fast as most children's media, so very slow. And then all of the toys, as we call them, it's like a collection of activities. Each one is completely open-ended. There's no right way to play, wrong way to play, no points to score, no levels to beat. It's just like throwing your kid, not throwing, sorry. It's just like
throw your child.
Gently placing your 4-year-old in a room with some toys and letting them just kind of go and see what happens. And that's the environment we've tried to create digitally.
That's really fascinating. And so you're obviously kind of like a product development, like that angle of this piece. How did you come to some of these conclusions? So some of them sound like they're like, I don't want to say not regulatory, but certainly like reinforced by data and that kind of stuff. But is a lot of this like going out to your customers and being like, hey, how did your kid react to this first game we made, and then toning it down or maybe potentially toning it up, depending on what's going on? Like, how did you get there?
We spent 2 years designing the product before we launched, which is very rare for a startup.
Yeah.
We had a lot of luck and fortune to be able to spend time on it. So we did a lot of play testing with our own children and with other kids we knew. It was peak pandemic. We started in 2020. So
nice. Okay.
We had a lot of people, neighbors, friends asking, can we get on the beta? We need something for our kids to do.
Yeah, sure.
And then we work with a lot of experts. So we bring in a kind of rolling panel of advisors, whether that's a pediatric occupational therapist or a kindergarten teacher or a neuroscientist, to help answer questions as we encounter them and weigh in on certain design decisions. And frankly, like, toddlers don't lie. Usually they're like
true,
pretty clear. If they don't like it, they're going to hand the iPad back to you and go do something
or
more
just
fun.
leave it on the floor, probably.
That's more likely.
They just like walk away from it. Like, I don't need this anymore. I'm out of here. Yeah.
And then for the parent, we were solving this problem for ourselves, even though actually I didn't have kids when we first started, but for all of our parent friends, for my co-founder as themselves as parents, and really just like trying to solve the pain point, which is really, really heavy guilt around everything you decide to do as a parent, whether that's like give your kid a bite of chocolate or, put them on an iPad while you're on a 6-hour road trip for 20 minutes. Like there's like, I think there's, it's just tough. And so we were trying to solve the problem for the parent at the same time as the kid. And I think that's where we really hit the nail on the head and what differentiates us, because most parents kind of just tolerate what their kids like. They don't really love it and stand behind it. And we wanted to create a brand that felt more like the Pixar of play, like this beautiful animated digital thing that was so wholesome and fun that the parent actually kind of loved it too.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so, we worked
Pixar
really
of
hard on
play.
that.
I like that. That's a fun way to get behind it. What do you think?
So can I ask some tech?
No. Go ahead. What's up?
When you have a podcast with your brother, no means yes. So just curious about, like you mentioned, dialing down the sound and like, do you manage the volume levels on the device? I'm thinking like the brightness of the backlight on the screen. Is that something the app manages as well? Or how do you, how deep do you guys go on that?
Those are really good questions. Yeah. We do manage the volume for sure. The brightness we can't do, but we can help parents understand what features are available on the devices they own to help with that. So like Apple has guided access. I don't know if you know about this. It's great. So you can lock your iPad on one app and kids can't accidentally swipe out of it.
Oh, cool.
So when they're like palming the screen and when they're really little,
because that was my next question is like what happens when they hit the home button and then go into the
Then
app
they're in
store and download
YouTube.
like the most stimulating thing ever. There's some guidance.
So we really try to support the parent during onboarding to make sure that they know like this is how to make this the safest experience for your kid. And then I think also like it's also just about the way we design it. So everything's like very minimalist looking.
Right.
And so I think just because of that, we don't need to adjust things like the brightness, but what we do look at a lot is like pace and speed of everything, like I mentioned. So that's less of a tech question, but.
No, part of the reason I was asking is because some of those things are like kind of sacred in the Apple operating system. Like you can't go in and change some of that stuff or how that behaves because they're really worried about confusing users. But in effect, you're trying to guide those parents to make sure that they've set it up properly and that the kids can't mess around with it too much. So that's really interesting.
Let's talk traction. How's it going? Because I'm very interested in this. Well, there's two parts. Yeah. Let's talk about this. Let's talk business. Let's talk numbers now.
But it's counterintuitive because she's trying to make like almost like an unappealing,
non-addictive game,
like a non-addictive product
by children. It is very fascinating because you could definitely see like the evil version of your business is every other game. Is every other game for children.
The
right?
opposite.
The other one's like it's flashing lights, it's Paw Patrol, it's explosions.
How can we glue everybody to the screen? Yeah.
So that's a question we get literally constantly, especially when we're fundraising, like we're venture backed. So it's like, well, what do you mean you don't want engagement to be higher? Is like a question we've been asked many times.
That's interesting, yeah.
And And it
how do you measure these metrics? That's very
well. We track everything anonymously. Like we know what kids are doing.
But like is it better or worse that they're playing it more?
It depends. So that's interesting. So with most businesses, like the more you play, the higher retaining you are. Or the more you use your product, the more likely you are to stay subscribed or pay for it or whatever. And with Pok Pok, that's also true to some extent. But we also have a lot of families who specifically don't want that. So like we have users who've been subscribed for 3 years, but they only play maybe twice a month for 15 minutes. And that is because that is the way that they consume screen time for their kids. Yeah. And that's what they want. And they're happy with that. And they see the value.
I think I would be in that category, to be honest, if I ever did this.
So many families are. One of our biggest use cases is parents who actually fundamentally disagree with screen time for children. But then there's the comma, but my entire family got sick last weekend, or but we have a 12-hour flight, or
extenuating circumstances.
Exactly. And so we do see a lot of like families that come in and out of the funnel depending on what they're going through, because they make the exception for Pok Pok when they need support, but it's not necessarily part of their day-to-day habit. Then we also have many families where it's part of their weekly or daily habit, and their child gets, their 25 minutes of Pok Pok time. And so in terms of traction, like the company's doing great. And why this works is because at this age range, so Pok Pok's primarily for kids 2 to 6, but it goes up to roughly age 8. And at that age, parents control everything. So if the parent trusts us and has buy-in, then they're happy to control it. And so they see, my kid only plays with this for maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and then they can just put it down and go play with something else.
And they don't freak out.
They don't freak out. Often you don't even have to tell them. My son just goes, I'm all done with Pok Pok. He goes, all done. He does the...
all done. Yeah, the sign language. All done.
Yeah. I'm like, great, let's do
more.
More.
What's Pok Pok? I don't know. Pok Pok.
So it's... that is why parents love it. And so they're so happy to keep paying, because they're like, this is the thing I can give my kid when I need them to be still and quiet, or if we're on the move or whatever's going on. And so like, don't forget, like our user is not our customer. This would be a very different situation if we were targeting adults, right?
Totally.
Right.
I can see that. I guess it's one of those things too. I got to imagine your churn, like how many people like leave your platform, it's got to be really low, because once they're in, they're like, this works, and the kid doesn't freak out, everything's okay, we can still do this, we bought ourselves 25 minutes on a weekend, which is like an unbelievable gift to some parents, right? And it doesn't come with this huge consequence. So you must have like really good retention, is my hot take.
I love your hot take.
You don't like, is it not true though?
No, I would say our retention is like good, but it's not like, top 95%, not 95. That's not. Yeah. That's the pregnancy brain.
Yeah.
95th.
95th percentile. Yeah.
Feel free to edit that.
No, actually, now that's the hook for the episode. We're just gonna keep playing that loop. Oh, that's cool.
Who put me in charge of anything? Anyway, yeah. So we're like, we have very good retention. It fluctuates between benchmark and slightly above industry benchmark for subscription apps, but it's not off the charts. And honestly, the biggest challenge is because of what I said. In some way, our users and our customers. So there are many families who download Pok Pok on their kids' iPad, and then they like forget it exists. And if they turn off auto renew the day that they buy it, then we've lost them, because it's hard to talk to parents because we're busy people. So if they don't open our email, if they don't follow us on socials, we can't just hit them with a push notification like Duolingo or other apps, because they might not even notice it if they don't have Pok Pok on their iPhone, let's say.
Could you like lock the next time the kid opens it and it pops up, it's like, yo, you need to like renew, or we'd love for you to come back. Here's an offer. And the kid just goes, I can't get past this, because it's like a really small X in the corner that they can't get.
Yeah, and then the parent will hate us.
Is this evil? Yeah, I was going to say, maybe I'm in the evil category all of a sudden, but
no, we've thought about all of those things, but ultimately, like, we're trying to create the purest experience for kids. So kids never see a single pop-up or anything that they can't, like, they don't see any of that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And if we start doing those things, we've kind of compromised on our core values.
You can't violate your principles for something like that.
No, so we're trying other creative things, but it's definitely one of our biggest challenges in terms of retention, is trying to figure out, like, how do we actually speak to parents regularly.
Interesting.
So if I figure that out, we'll let you know.
Need like a parent community associated with it or something. I don't know. We can talk about it later. But anyway,
we've thought about a lot of that.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. I didn't mean it like. Yeah. We've thought about
go ahead and shut up for a second.
No, let's have a think tank.
Yeah. Let's do it like right now. Actually, we only have time for one more question. So on that note, no. So we ask this question like of all of our guests, but we like to bust startup myths, and there's a lot of different possible ones in your story today. Did you have one myth or like key learning that you want to make sure our audience leaves with today?
Yeah, I think you don't have to follow or this is what I learned at least. You don't have to follow the recipe because there kind of isn't one. Maybe there are a few recipes out there online, but they all lead to the same result. And I think there are so many different ways to get there. So building a company like Pok Pok, we're inherently going left when everyone else is going right.
Right.
It's a tougher sell, especially if you're raising money and trying to hire great people and all of that. But if you can make it work, which I think you very much can, then it can really set you apart from everyone else. So I think just having the guts to try to make those choices that no one else is making. And I say this with confidence now, but of course, there are many moments where we've questioned that. But I think, people just feel like you always have to kind of go the way that the venture capitalists want or the way that all of the previous unicorns have done. And I don't believe that's true, but obviously we're still earlier on in our journey than some. So stay tuned. But I feel like you just have to do what feels like you, because at the end of the day, running a startup's so hard. And if you don't love it, you can't get out of bed in the morning, then what's the point? So it has to feel like an extension of your core values and personality and all that, and hope for the best.
Makes sense. You gotta be wary of the conventional wisdom, because I feel like, everybody wants to be the unicorn, but does that actually make sense for your business? Or does, going after, whether it's funding or not, I know you're funded, but whatever your path is, there's many ways to reach the same end result, and you don't have to take ridiculous gambles or do it the way somebody else did to be successful necessarily. Cool.
I thought the myth was going to be, hey, you can be fabulously wealthy by making an unengaging app.
Yeah. I like that too. Yeah.
That's true. It's
Nobody's
also,
engaged.
I shouldn't have said we want to make it boring, but because we don't. It has to. One of our primary core values is it has to be fun.
Right.
And it definitely is really fun. It's just not crack
addictive
cocaine.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not TikTok. It's not Reels. It's not Reels for kids where they're just like,
and that exists. Those
sure it
companies
does.
are doing hundreds of millions a year, but
But
at what cost is my question?
real societal cost, real material cost for us.
Yeah, these are real kids.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a really awesome discussion. Folks, that's another episode of Startup Different. Next week, we will do a recap episode on this interview, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end of the episode. Nicely done. If you enjoyed this episode, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so the almighty algorithm can help others find us. Want more from Startup Different? Check out our book, Startup Different, the myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business. Follow us on social. We're big on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also check us out at startupdifferent.com. Special thanks for this episode to Graham and our friends at Toronto Podcasts. Visit them at torontopodcast.ca. See you next week.